So we would like to talk about PCI Express Gen 3 and why choosing your IP vendor is critical. You have to ensure you're choosing the right person. So first of all, we'll look at Gen 3 spec. This is the next generation following Gen 1 and Gen 2. So Gen 1 was released back in 2003. PCI Express Gen 3 is running at 8 gig. So essentially, you see we're doubling the bandwidth. We're going from 500 megabytes per second that you saw in Gen 2 up to 1 gigabyte per second. That's huge. But how did we do this? PCI SIG, which is the governing body of the PCI and PCI Express protocols, decided to change things around, create a new architecture. So whereas with Gen 2 and Gen 1, we were looking at 8-bit and 10-bit decoding, now we're looking at 128, 132-bit encoding. Essentially, we're taking away a lot of the overhead that existed in Gen 1 and Gen 2. All of that means that we have lower power consumption. We're reducing the size, taking up less space on the silicon, and we're giving better signal integrity. But this means it's not a simple IP anymore. Gone are the days of the PCI simple IP that anybody could design. So more and more companies are looking to outsource their PCI Express solutions rather than designing internally. Problem is we need to get our products to market very quickly, so there's no time to spend many man-years developing IP. So we have two types of choices. And the first choice we have here is the supermarket IP. It's kind of going back to Gabrielle's keynote session at the beginning there. You saw a lot of these companies that have bought individual companies below so that they have a huge offering of IPs. That's good in one way because you can get everything from one shop. But how about the expertise in each area? The other option is a specialty shop. And we'll look at that's what PLDA, my company, is doing. Focusing themselves on a specific IP rather than a massive different IPs. So let's look at the different things you need to consider. First of all, IP functionality. Is it going to work at the process and foundry that you're looking at? Have they covered all the options? Then we have here also the PHY choice. I think this is a very big, important factor when you're choosing an IP vendor. Are you being obliged to use a particular PHY, or can you choose whichever PHY you want? Perhaps you've designed your own PHY. Can you use that with the IP from your vendor choices? Of course, other key factors to consider are performance, the complexity of the IP, and of course, ease of use. Remember, your product's got to get to market quickly. You don't want to be using an IP that's too complicated. And then finally, on this slide, we're looking at verification. I think it's very important to know that your product, the IP core you're choosing, has been fully verified. Not just on internal tools from the same company, but looking at verification methods from outside parties. So have they been using the third-party verification suites to extensively test their IP? Other factors to consider when looking at your IP vendor are their track record. How many tape-outs do they have? Just a few isn't good enough. You need to have a reliable IP. You don't want to be the first one to invent the wheel and have to go through all the beta testing of the product. So check out their tape-outs. How many have they done? How many customer success stories can they talk about? But looking deeper behind on PCI Express, perhaps you should also look at their history. Have they produced PCI before, or PCIe? And then in PCI Express, the first and second generations. Other areas to look at on the knowledge is how many times this IP has been implemented, in what types of application, and also the different types of systems where the IP is embedded. Has the company done something similar to what you're doing today? And then finally, another area of importance, and probably should be at the top of the list here, in fact, is the level of service. Your larger supermarket IPs might not have the time or even the knowledge to help you out. Once you've bought the IP, you're forgotten. What about the after-sales service? I think typically you'll find in the smaller specialized IP core companies, they're much more willing to help you out. What happens if you've got a problem down the road? You're close to tape out. Can you get somebody from your big supermarket company to come in immediately and give on-site support? Probably not. Your small IP vendor wants to help you, so they'll be there. But it's not just the IP core, it's a complete package that you need to look at from your IP core vendor. Perhaps you're looking at different variations of your product. You're going to start off with an ASIC chip, but then you want to have a spin-off. Maybe there's not enough selling capability to justify the cost of an ASIC. So what about producing an FPGA version or even a structured ASIC version? Does the IP vendor cover those areas? Do they have specialized licensing in those areas? Are they flexible? Looking at it the other way around, perhaps you don't have a great budget today for your IP design. You're testing a new product. Maybe you want to start with an FPGA product straight away. Does your IP vendor have an FPGA license available? Low cost beginning solution with a possibility to upgrade later. And then in addition to the IP, are they offering other sidelines, such as the software drivers? You're going to need those unless you have them already inside. And many companies don't have the engineering time or resources to develop those. Reference designs. Is there something on which you can base your design? A start-off point, help you out in this new PCI Express Gen 3 protocol. And finally, what happens if you want to prototype on an FPGA? You'll find many IP core vendors in the ASIC market have their solutions for ASIC. But what happens when I want to put that on a Xilinx or an Altera device? Can they provide you a complete solution? Have they got reference designs for those FPGAs? Maybe not from the supermarket. So all of this brings us to the semi-conclusion of the presentation, is that a specialized vendor is probably your best option for certain key IPs like PCI Express or USB 3 that are quite complex. Your specialized vendor will have a complete knowledge of one particular area, rather than having a slimmed down knowledge over a vast area. They have fewer products. They'll probably have support for any PHY whatsoever. So if you're designing your own PHY, or you want to have a flexibility of choosing PHY and bringing the price down perhaps, that's also possible. The specialized vendor is also going to give you guaranteed integration of your circuit. You won't be left alone. They want to make sure that your product is functioning because they want your business. That's all they do. The tech support they can provide and the extra service, we mentioned things like on-site technical support, are most likely going to be coming from a specialized vendor. And then we mentioned briefly earlier the flexible licensing options, FPGA licensing, structured ASIC licensing, total ASIC licensing. So let's look about what my company's here to do. We're a specialized vendor in the PCI Express field. We were founded in 1996 and we're a private company and been profitable since it was created. And you have over here some of the many companies, big and small. We have most of the big names on here. Obviously, there's a lot of Asian companies using our products here locally, Huawei, HiSilicon, in Japan, Hitachi, Sony, many, many different companies. But big and small, anybody's our customer. We've been dedicated to PCI Express since 2002. And most recently, we stepped into the USB 3 market because it's a very similar protocol to PCI Express. We have over 50 distributors throughout the world. And it's this point where I'd like to thank our hosts who are also distributor or representatives of PLDA here in China. So Shanghai Jiaotao can help you with any information. And PLDA has offices in San Jose, Italy, Bulgaria, and we're headquartered in France. So a brief look at PCI Express. Our Gen 3 IP core is called Express Rich 3. It's running 8-lane, 4-lane, 2-lane, and 1-lane, and of course is backward compatible with Gen 1 and Gen 2 speeds. We already have FPGA solutions available. It's already been ported to the very latest Xilinx devices, the Kintex 7, and is in development right now for the Stratix 5s from Altera. So that's, and also the Vertex 7s, of course. On the front end, we provide a pipe interface, so you can connect to any PHY solution available. And we'll assist you here. Should your PHY not be pipe compliant, we'll help you create what we call the PHY PCS, which is a little wrapper connecting the IP to the PHY together. So your choices are flexible. The core is endpoint, root port, and switch. We offer flexible licensing solutions. So this core is not just for ASIC applications, but also for FPGA only. So you can start off with a simple FPGA license, try your product out. If it hits the market well and you want to go on to an ASIC, we have an upgrade possibility, all with the same RTL. We also have a choice of different interfaces here, starting with the standard TX-RX interface of PCI Express. We have transaction layer bypass solutions, or FPGA simplified versions like our Easy DMA interface, which is a simple DMA engine. And most recently, we've added the AXI4 layer, which is very much the way, in particular, the FPGA market is moving. So a brief look at how we verify and validate our product. We started the PCI Express development of the Gen 1 product back in 2002. And overall, we have had over 60 man-year effort in designing this IP core. On the verification side, we have our own BFM for internal testing, but we also use external verification suites from companies like Ansys, Perfectus, obviously Synopsys Cadence. On the hardware side, we verify our products, again, with internal solutions that PLDA has designed, but also using PHY chips, using FPGA-based platforms. We have an example over here. We go along on a regular basis to the PCI SIG workshops where you can test your products against everything else available on the market. And we have system-level stress testing on commercial platforms. A brief look at what you get from PLDA when you purchase our IP core. We offer FPGA encrypted versions or clear source code, a GUI wizard to help you customize the core step by step, taking you through the options of the core that you would like to use and removing the parts of the core that you don't want to use so you're not wasting any space on silicon. We also include, obviously, the simulation models, synthesis models, PCI Express test bench so that you can try out the core, reference designs, and in particular, we also provide software drivers. You can check out our documentation on PLDA website. It's all freely available. I think the most important part of the list here is the technical support we provide. It's almost as if we're giving you our engineering team as an extension of your own to help you get your product to market very quickly. But one important thing to note is we provide free evaluation. We don't just talk about our IP. We want you to try it out. So for any of our IP core products, you have 1 month evaluation to try us out, try out the technical support too, because we want you to see the product first. And the evaluation package is exactly the same IP you will buy. There's no features canceled out. Coming towards the end of the presentation, I'd also like to highlight our FPGA prototyping platforms. All of these boards, whether they're Xilinx-based or Altera-based, include our FPGA license for free usage, unlimited usage. So once you've tried the evaluation for a month, time's over, but you're not quite ready to buy an ASIC IP, we have the option of our FPGA boards. You have an IP core there for unlimited duration. So right now we have Vertex 6 platforms, and our latest addition is a Stratix 4-based solution. There's a couple of different sizes of FPGA device on there. And in addition to PCI Express, this also has dual 10 gigabit Ethernet.